Hi, it's Edward, back with another video. Please take a moment to click the thumbs up button below and consider subscribing to the channel. Please also share this video via social media and with your friends via email. Thank you for your support. Today, I read several financial news articles. I'll include links to the articles in the description below. I encourage you to read the articles to support the authors and news source. As a private American citizen, I'd like to report and share my transformative thoughts through commentary regarding small sections of these articles that are of public interest. One of the interesting articles that I read today was from CNBC.com, written by John Roseveare, titled, "Ford Shares Fall 12% After Earnings Underline Worries About Costs and EV Plans." According to this article, Ford said it plans to delay about $12 billion in previously announced spending on EV manufacturing capacity, saying that its customers in North America are no longer willing to pay a premium for an EV vehicle versus a comparable internal combustion or hybrid alternative. The article went on to say, while executives emphasized Ford isn't cutting back or delaying its plans to develop a range of more advanced EVs, investors concerned about the company's ability to compete with Tesla and other EV entrants were given a new reason for caution. In my opinion, I think Ford needs to rethink their game plan moving forward. They are competing in a crowded space for a limited number of EV buyers. These EVs are not cheap, and Ford is trying to sell these at a time when Americans are stretched thin and having to finance vehicles with sky-high interest rates. I am sure there are everyday Americans who believe electric vehicles are the transportation mode of the future. There are a lot of loyal fanboys for these EVs. The fact of the matter is there are a lot of everyday Americans who are struggling financially right now. Some of these individuals have not seen their wages keep pace with inflation in recent years. A lot of these individuals are in no position to finance one of these expensive EVs, especially given the high level of interest that finance companies are charging these days. Some everyday Americans stand no chance at being able to finance an expensive EV, even with a 72-month, 84-month, or 96-month vehicle loan. Sure, there are some individuals who could go out and write a check for a new electric vehicle with no problem. But a lot of these individuals may already have one. Electric vehicles make sense in some areas of the United States, but not in all. If you live in an extremely rural area without good charging infrastructure, an electric vehicle may not make a lot of sense right now. Ford is a large company with a lot of financial resources. I have no doubt they have conducted some market studies to determine how many buyers are out there for these electric vehicles. Yet, I keep reading stories about electric vehicles piling up on dealership lots. I just wonder how they are going to sell all of these electric vehicles moving forward. Now that we are all in a higher interest rate environment, it is more expensive to finance these EVs, along with any other expensive internal combustion engine vehicles or hybrid vehicles for that matter. There have been a lot of individuals comment on my channel in the past talking about how they love their EVs and they would never consider going back to an internal combustion engine vehicle. And I'm happy for them. I'm glad that they enjoy the EV experience. I just don't think these EVs are for everyone, and I don't think a lot of everyday Americans can afford to go out and purchase one right now. I read another interesting article today on CNBC.com written by John Roseveare titled, "Ford Will Postpone About $12 billion in EV Investment as Buyers Become More Cautious." According to this article, the company is postponing about $12 billion in EV manufacturing investment. Ford's Model E EV unit lost about $3.1 billion through 3 quarters this year. I am not surprised by this one bit. There are a lot of individuals that don't want to buy an EV because it doesn't match their driving habits, lifestyle, or budget. There are a lot of everyday American consumers who have concerns about the charging infrastructure in their area. It is going to take some time for the charging infrastructure to expand in some parts of the United States. I have read articles about everyday American consumers who have concerns about the high cost to replace batteries in these electric vehicles. Some also have concerns about electromagnetic radiation from these vehicles. While some of those concerns are probably overblown, these are concerns for some people. I have also read that some consumers have concerns about electric vehicle performance during extreme temperature conditions. There is some documented evidence to suggest that electric vehicles do not operate at their peak performance during extreme temperatures. I have also read about some consumers who have concerns relating to the cost of insuring some of these high-tech electric vehicles. Insurance has gone up across the board in the past few years, whether you are talking about vehicle insurance or home insurance. Some people right now are struggling to pay the vehicle insurance on their used vehicles. Do you think people like this have any interest in going out and purchasing a very expensive, high-tech electric vehicle that may cost a lot more to insure? I doubt it. On the flip side of the coin, there are wealthy individuals who want to purchase an EV because they want to do their part to help the environment. There are some wealthy individuals who want to purchase an EV because it is a status symbol. There are also some wealthy individuals who likely want to purchase an EV because they like all of the high-tech features and they like the quiet operation. I personally think the United States of America is quite divided when it comes to electric vehicles. Some people love them and think they are the future, and others have no interest at all in ever owning one. Another interesting article today from yahoo.com written by Alexa St. John and Nora Naughton is titled, "Auto Execs Are Coming Clean, EVs Aren't Working." According to this article, General Motors had their third quarter earnings call, and the General Motors CEO struck a more sober tone. The company announced its quarterly results and indicated it's abandoning its targets to build 100,000 EVs in the second half of this year and another 400,000 by the first 6 months of 2024. General Motors doesn't know when it will hit those targets. According to the General Motors CEO, and I'll quote, "As we get further into the transformation to EVs, it's a bit bumpy." I personally believe General Motors and many other manufacturers have gotten too carried away with the push toward EVs. I think this is going to be a very slow transition. Think about how many gas stations you have in your city or town. Think about how many charging stations you would need in your city or town if we made a complete transition to electric vehicles at some point in the future. I am sure some of you are going to say that we don't need to have all of this charging infrastructure in place because you can simply charge your electric vehicle at home. Once you charge your electric vehicle at home, you're good for a couple days. You don't need to worry about charging your electric vehicle at the work parking garage. You don't need to worry about charging your electric vehicle at some type of charging location around town because you will have great range and you can simply charge up every day or two. Well, some electric vehicles that are lower priced don't have phenomenal range yet. That is one problem from my perspective. Here's something else I want everyone to think about. Do you remember the Home Alone movie? The family was getting ready to go to Paris for the holidays. They were busy scurrying around the home, trying to get all the children ready. They were trying to get all of the luggage loaded into the airport van. They ended up leaving Kevin behind. This movie portrays how chaotic life can be for some everyday American families. There are some everyday Americans that always operate in crisis mode. some of these people won't remember to charge their electric vehicle when they get home. What are they going to do the next morning when they need to go to work? They might have enough charge to get to work, but if there's not charging infrastructure in place at the parking garage where they are employed, they are out of luck. If there is not a charging location somewhere in town that they can stop at, again, they might be out of luck. They might not have enough of a charge to get back home after going to work. I'm telling you right now, there are a lot of everyday Americans that are not ready to make this transition from internal combustion engines to electric vehicles. And there are a lot of everyday Americans who will never be ready to make this transition from internal combustion engines to electric vehicles. They want no part of it at all. Understand, I'm not an electric vehicle hater. I think some electric vehicles are incredibly cool. I really like the Tesla Model Plaid. I think that car has phenomenal performance. It is crazy to watch the Tesla Model Plaid beat some of these muscle cars at the drag strip. I don't have any interest in going out and purchasing one. If you gave me one, I would probably keep it. I would enjoy driving it occasionally as a fun toy. I'd rather keep my internal combustion engine vehicle as my daily driver. I'm perfectly happy with the mileage that my little 4-cylinder gets. It's reliable, I have cheap maintenance, and I don't have to worry about any range limitations. I don't have to worry about searching for charging infrastructure in my area. It just makes a lot more sense for my driving habits and lifestyle right now. I want you to think for a moment about a gas station close to where you live. Imagine if we no longer had vehicles that take fuel and that gas station was to be converted to a bunch of charging stations. Think about the electrical infrastructure at your typical gas station. They have lights inside of the gas station. They also have some electricity if they've got one of those hot dog machines. They also have electricity to power the lights above the gas pumps. It is highly unlikely that your average gas station has the electric infrastructure to be able to accommodate a bunch of new charging stations. It's just mind-boggling to me to think about all of the electric cabling that is going to have to be run to all of these locations to accommodate all of the fast chargers moving forward in the future, to accommodate all of the electric vehicles that may be on the road at some point, assuming that the United States government continues to push the transition to EVs and assuming all of the auto manufacturers continue to push the transition to EVs. I'm sure some of you are going to say, well, we won't use existing gas stations. We'll use other land to install all of these chargers at. Well, where's that going to happen? In a lot of cities, all the land has already been bought up and developed. Are you going to tear down some existing buildings to be able to create a large parking lot with a bunch of charging stations? I might be completely off base here, but I think it is going to take a lot more time and a lot more money than a lot of people anticipate to make this transition from internal combustion engine vehicles to electric vehicles. I realize there are some Americans who work from home now, but a lot of people still go into the office. A lot of companies have large parking garages. Are we going to install charging stations in all of these parking garages for every parking space moving forward at some point? Imagine all of the electrical lines that would need to be run to allow this to happen. How are you going to do this with an existing parking structure? Are you going to run all of this electrical cabling in some type of metal conduit and have drops to every single parking space? You also have to figure out how to get all of the electricity to that parking structure. Is this going to involve overhead lines or new underground lines? Many parking structures right now don't require a lot of electricity. You have lighting and you may have some type of pay station for parking, but beyond that, these parking structures don't have some type of incredible electric infrastructure in place right now. If some of you watching this video today have actually seen a parking structure that has been retrofitted with an EV charging station for every spot, let me know about it. I'd love to hear how they did that. I'd love to hear how much time it took and how much money was spent in order to make that happen. This article goes on to indicate Mercedes-Benz is having to discount EVs by several $1,000s just to get them in consumers' hands. According to the Mercedes-Benz CEO, this is a pretty brutal space. I can hardly imagine the current status quo is fully sustainable for everybody. I think this is very interesting. Finally, we hear from an executive who is being logical about the future of EVs. I personally don't think the government incentives for buying an EV are going to sway enough everyday Americans to dump their internal combustion engine vehicles for one of these expensive EVs. This article goes on to reference the Toyota Motor chairman, Akio Toyoda, who said, "People are finally seeing reality." He has long been skeptical of his peers' pure electric blueprints. Wow, another automotive executive who is being logical. I am glad these executives have the guts to come out and recognize that a transition to EVs is not going to happen as quickly as many fantasize about. As indicated in this video, I have concerns about an electric vehicle future here in the United States of America. I think it is going to take a lot of time to see a transition from internal combustion engines to electric vehicles. We have a lot to do to be able to expand the current charging infrastructure in this country. This is going to take a lot of time and a lot of money. Have you ever been frustrated by how long it takes to get some roadwork projects completed in your area? Sometimes these road repair projects take months, sometimes they take years. I often get frustrated when I'm sitting in traffic looking at these construction workers with their orange or yellow vests on, many of whom are standing around smoking. There might be one operator of equipment doing some real work. These projects take forever to complete. We're not talking about something super high tech here. We're talking about road repairs or road expansion. In terms of charging infrastructure for electric vehicles, we're talking about something that is a lot more high tech than road work. How long is this going to take to be able to see charging stations installed for enough electric vehicles across the entire United States of America? During the pandemic, do you remember how long it took to get hand sanitizer and masks distributed to some areas in the United States? I think the transition from internal combustion engines to EVs is going to be very slow. I think some automakers are making a mistake by putting too many eggs in one basket with regard to electric vehicles. I don't think any auto manufacturers should be thinking about getting away from internal combustion engines altogether. It's just my opinion, but I think this is a dangerous business move. Maybe it gives off the perception that they're doing their part to help the environment. I don't know. All I know is there are a lot of everyday Americans who have no interest in buying an electric vehicle now or any time in the future. Some individuals might consider a hybrid vehicle because it offers more flexibility. You don't have the same concerns with regard to range. I think hybrid vehicles make a lot more sense. I don't own one. I like my internal combustion engine vehicle. I'm perfectly happy with my fuel-efficient 4-cylinder engine right now. If I were going to make a transition to something different, I would consider a plug-in hybrid vehicle. I think this is the best of both worlds. You can run on electric power for part of your trip, and then you can switch over to the internal combustion engine for the rest of your trip. You don't have to worry about range anxiety. You have an internal combustion engine. You can still get great fuel mileage with some of these plug-in hybrid vehicles. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what Toyota does with their hydrogen vehicle. Perhaps this will be the future as opposed to electric vehicles. Time will tell. I wonder if some of the automotive executives that have talked about having a completely electric fleet by some point in the future will walk back those comments. I think some may figure out that there is less demand for these electric vehicles than they had originally anticipated. These auto manufacturers need to remain profitable, especially the big three here in the United States of America, because they are working with the UAW to provide higher wages to the employees. These big three automakers better make sure they have vehicles that are wanted by consumers so they can remain profitable and continue paying these employees. It's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out. What do you think about all this? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Please keep in mind, nothing in this video is financial advice or advice of any kind. If you need advice, seek advice from a qualified professional in good standing who puts your interests first and foremost. If you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you haven't yet subscribed, please consider doing so. I want to extend a special thanks to everyone who has subscribed to this channel. I also want to thank all of my channel members. Stay healthy and wealthy. I'll see everyone in the next video.